So how did Jimmy beat the pros? Guys, we have Jimmy Schurman here on the podcast today. If you didn't know, he won Green Mountain Stage Race in the pro field. Awesome W. Two quick things. We had a little echo that goes away. We stopped and came back in, but maybe around minute 5 or 6, it comes on before we realize it. So don't worry, that's going to go away. And also, Jimmy came in second behind a cyclist that you may know named Mike Woods. Everybody knows Mike Woods, World Tour rider. As Jimmy is listing off his Palmares, I'm waiting for him to talk about this, but it happened so long ago, he's forgotten about it. Jimmy's been in the game for a while. I interrupt Jimmy. I apologize. Still getting better at not getting overexcited and exuberant when I'm talking to people, especially my friends on the podcast. So sorry about that. Trying to continually get better at being a podcast host. And everybody, good luck with your training and racing. This episode is sponsored by Lactigo. If you haven't tried it yet, you have to. It's amazing for strength training, for any super hard efforts, but even for recovery. I use it all the time, especially as I'm doing big base periods of a lot of volume. Use the code CYCLING and you'll get a discount. So with no further ado, thanks for coming by the podcast. Jimmy, thanks again for doing this. We'll talk to you guys later. See ya. Everybody, welcome to the EVOQ Bike Podcast. Jimmy Schurman's here. If you follow American racing, you saw him win Green Mountain at the pro field. Huge W in my mind. I'm excited to hear what he has to think about the whole race. And we're going to talk about typical training, kind of how he looks at training, his philosophy, and then specific prep, if there was any, for the race. Jimmy, good morning. Welcome to the podcast.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Everybody in South Florida is going to be hyped because there's so many questions behind your training. And my first question is, are you self-coached? Do you put everything together yourself?
At this point, yeah, I'm self-coached, but I've had, several coaches over the last 17 years that I've done this. And, I learned a lot from that.
So what is your best result ever?
The winning Green Mountain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now what are the other ones that are up there? And it doesn't have to be a win, but you look back and you're like, damn, okay, that was pretty solid.
So I had, top 20 in Redlands a long time ago. I liked that. I'd like to go back and do better at that race. Let's see, I won the Roan Grown road race. That was a big one.
Dude, what about the second place? Sorry to cut you off. I'm dying here. The second place.
Second place at Roan Grown?
No. What is your second place that is Mega? GC.
Second GC. Tour of Catskills. Yeah. Dude, I've been doing this so long and it's early in the morning. I don't remember what I've done, but yeah, the second
people are going to yell at me for cutting you off and
no, you're good. I need the reminder. So yeah, I got second to Mike Woods in the GC at Tour of Catskills a long time ago. So that's what happens when, I'm turning 35 in 10 days. So I've kind of had like 3 careers within one career of like cycling, if you want to call it that. when I was younger, I was going at it with the intention of going pro, and then decided to like, hey, get a career, met my wife. And now that I'm a little older and more established, I kind of got the second win. I'm like, hey, I want to throw everything at this while I still have a reasonably young body, because I know it's like, hey, that window is closing where you can achieve some of the things that you wanted to achieve. But yes, I got second to Mike Woods at Tour of Catskills. That was sick. And then he went on to, like win a stage of the tour and all that. So that's pretty neat. And now he just retired. So yeah, that was a good one.
It's incredible. I mean, looking through your road results, there are just some days out there that you were on fire. And for people that don't know Green Mountain, if you're not in the Northeast, I mean, it's one of the biggest stage races in the Northeast for a really long time. There were super strong guys, Quinn Felton, Strohmeyer, Kelly Benefit, Skyline, the Jameson crew from New York. I mean, to get that W, when I heard you took yellow, I said, Jimmy? Holy crap, he's killing it right now. Like, you brought the Florida boys city bikes,
yeah,
and you're winning the mountain race.
Yeah, it's the sickest way to do it for sure.
All right, let's get into the training. What's the typical training week look like for you when you don't have a big race coming up? You're just outgoing.
I would say, 15 to 20 hours is pretty typical. No big race coming up. I try not to like overcook it. I'm not going to be smashing like top end you know, not too much high zone 4, zone 5, but more, uh, sweet spot, tempo, endurance, and some mid zone 4 kind of stuff. I would say that's like a good maintenance, slash, continued macro build, protocol. So yeah, that would be the week to week. Hey, I don't have anything big coming up in the next like 4 weeks.
And so when I see you out there, sometimes I see you doing like long intervals. When you're talking about tempo, sweet spot, how do you block that out? Are you doing 2x20s? Are you just ripping for a really long time? Because for people that don't know your racing style, you're a
Mm.
big breakaway guy. So we were in a break for 2 hours together multiple times in road races. Are you training for that? Or is this just, as you said, maintenance and, hey, this is really good aerobic training for me? How do you sort of shape that?
So yeah, I'll do 2x20, 2x30, at like a low zone 4, or sometimes even, at the end of like a 4 or 5 hour ride, I'll throw in like a 30, just like 1 30 to 40 minute, low zone 4, high zone 3 effort. That's what I mean by sweet spot, basically.
Okay. And then are you planning these training days out by feel at all, or do you have like do you put it out in a calendar and you're like, okay, I don't have a race for 6 weeks. Here's what I'm
Right.
doing the next 2.5 weeks.
Generally, I'll block it out like 2 weeks at a time, and I'll just, think about it, think about how I'm feeling, think about what's coming up, and I'll write out a training plan for myself. And then I definitely call audibles from time to time. Like yesterday, for example, I had told myself, so I have the state road race coming up next weekend, and I had a couple good rides this week, some like high zone 4 stuff. And yesterday I told myself, hey, I would do 2 or 3x30 at like low zone 4. Um, and that was going to be like really the blowout at the end of a block. And I went out there and like I felt pretty good at the start of the ride, but then my legs were just like a little achy. And I thought to myself, you know what? Let's just do zone 2 today, and then I'll be fresh by Tuesday, fresher, because I'll do recovery Monday, and then Tuesday I can do like a real quality session. It'll be a little shorter, but it'll be higher intensity, and it'll try to like kind of give me a little bit of a bump going into the weekend, where I'm doing higher zone work rather than just like beat the legs to death with this zone 3, zone 4 stuff that I was going to do. So, always call audibles if you don't feel it, and think about like, hey, what's better for me overall? What's going to be more constructive?
So let's say you were feeling good yesterday. And so for context for people, it's Monday now. He was talking about his Sunday ride. You were going to do this 3x30, I think you said.
Yeah.
If that had gone well, what would you have done Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? You would have just been
So
easier going into the weekend, or would you have had one more hard day before the race?
definitely one more hard day. The race is on Sunday, and so my main workout of the week that I want to throw in there is 30-15 session, which is 3x13, where it's actually like 9.5 minutes per set, because you're doing 30 seconds, not full gas, but kind of at like 2 minute power, and then you're taking 15 seconds off where you can basically coast. Um, so you're doing 13 reps of 30 seconds at, you know, 2 minute power, I'd call it, um, and 15 seconds off. And that is like, to me, the best VO2 workout, because, you're getting that snappiness in your legs, of really almost an attack. Um, you're huffing and puffing, you're stimulating the heck out of the VO2, but you're not like destroying the legs like a 5x5 minute at like high zone 5 does. So I really like that one going into races, and so I have that planned this week. And had I done the 3x30 yesterday, I would have maybe, recovery today no matter what. So instead, it would have been like a Tuesday, um, some kind of easier, maybe like a it's like a fill-in kind of workout, like a 3x10 at like sweet spot or whatever. It's like a taper workout. Then a Wednesday, very easy zone 2 short because I'm tapering. And then Thursday would have been the key workout. Friday recover, Saturday, mostly recover, maybe throw in a little opener. And then race Sunday. But instead, now I'll do like, today recover Monday. Tuesday, I'm going to shoot for a sharper session since I really kind of left the legs alone yesterday. So I'll shoot for maybe like I just want to hit some numbers, maybe like a 2x10 where I blast out like something that looks good on the screen for me or whatever. And I'm stimulating that top zone 5, zone 4. Then Wednesday, still easy. And then Thursday, key workout.
Okay. And back to that 30-15, you're doing, when you do that 9.5 minutes, are you doing that more than one time or just once?
So yeah, you do 3 sets. You
Okay.
accumulate, the whole session takes about 35 minutes. So you're doing 3 sets with
Love that.
3 minutes rest in between. So
3
it's
minutes.
short. Yeah, short rest in between.
That sounds not enjoyable. We will probably post this one. People will like.
Actually, I love that workout, and it's all over the internet. I follow Knowledge is What it's called
Mhm.
on Instagram, and I got all into this workout because they keep raving about it and all the studies that like, hey, this is the gold standard for improving VO2 max. So I'm like, hell yeah, I'll do that all the time, and I've done it like a dozen times probably this year.
Do you ever do descending duration VO2 max? Like
No.
4 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes. There's some good stuff out there showing that this actually accumulates more time at 90% VO2 max than 30-15s.
Okay, all right.
I think mixing it up is good, but people love 30-15s and they got to do something. So
Yeah.
But it's a savage session I think you would like. I'm gonna send it to you later.
All right. Nice.
When you talk about how I'm feeling, explain that a little more, because someone who's new is like, well, how does he know what he's feeling? What is that direct? And you mentioned this like 5 minutes ago. It's like, well, you got to tap into these like RPE feelings and calling an audible. Like what does that mean exactly? What are you looking for, I guess?
Yeah. Definitely overall how you're feeling, like before you even get on the bike is probably the first thing to pay attention to. Like, are you dragging out of bed? Are you feeling like really not motivated, exhausted? Do you feel like, hey, if you push it a little too hard, you might start to get a little sick? Like those kinds of things are really important to me. And then next is like, all right, when you get on the bike, how are you feeling? If you start to push like zone 2, for me on a day where I feel good, zone 2 almost feels like not zone 1, but it's like, hey, this is really light. Like I could do this all day and it's not an issue. Whereas if I'm not feeling great, then zone 2 is going to be kind of like, the legs are just going to feel a little heavy. It's like I feel it in the legs, which that's sometimes an indicator that you're not on a great day. But I do think like everyone's different, because there's days where, I'm doing the warm up and like I've got the session planned and I get to the road where I'm going to do the session and I'm like, damn, I'm just really dead, and I'm like, well, I'm going to try the session anyways. And I start the session and then I end up feeling all right. So I, like the body is a weird thing. So I think it's ultimately better to err on the side of being more conservative, because the one thing I've learned is like if you start to burn out and start to spiral, and start missing more and more quality sessions because you're just kind of like trending down from like overdoing it, that's the worst thing, because then you get in like weeks and weeks of a rut and you're not getting better there. So err on the side of caution. Like if you're not, and that's what I did yesterday. If you're feeling like the slightest bit like really run down and like, hey, my body is almost telling me not to do this, then modify it. But with that said, like you have to make sure you're pushing yourself enough over the macro time period to like get better. Yeah.
I think that's an awesome tip. And just so I'm hearing it correctly, when you say like training down, if it's not going well, shut it down so that you recover, get back to 100%. So then you're doing quality work as opposed to doing all these next 7 days at 90% and not really
Yeah.
achieving much.
Yeah, for sure. That's, and like as I've learned more about training and gone on and on continuing to do the sport, like that's something I've changed probably the most in the last year, really, is
Mm.
like prioritizing, even if you're not spending as much time in the zone. Like I used to think like, hey, you got to do like 3 by 10, at least, or like 3 by 12. You got to spend like, at least if you're doing like a threshold or whatever you want to call it, zone 4, supra threshold workout, you got to spend at least like 30 minutes in the zone, or else it's like doesn't count, right? But now I found I'll do like 2 by 10 minutes, or like 2 by 12. But I'll like nail it, and it's like something that, hey, this is like a race winning on a climb type effort almost. And I've noticed changes from that.
That's a good segue onto the climb. Green Mountain. Did you do anything different for Green Mountain?
So it was actually a crazy lead into that race because I had a horrible injury in April. I hurt my hand at Athens Twilight and like sliced a nerve and tendons and needed surgery. And I thought I actually might never race again because um, I had like 6 weeks where I could barely close my hand even after the surgery. Um, so, but on the other side of that, I kept my foot in the door. I rode the trainer like 5, 6 hours a week for like 6 weeks. And so I had this big freshness. Like I definitely lost a lot of fitness when I came back to doing efforts on the road. Was what, end of June. So it was like what, 9 weeks until Green Mountain
That's
that I got to
crazy, Jimmy.
right. So I got back on the road and I'm doing, like 3 by 10 minutes at like, you know, 80% of what I'd be able to do it at normally. Um, yeah, but the freshness from that little mini off season that I had allowed me, and also just the hunger. I was so bummed out about that injury because I was going into nationals and thought I had a good shot at like a top 5 or something in nationals. I was feeling good. Yeah, just that freshness allowed me to drive it for like 7 weeks straight, just going into Green Mountain. And just the timing was perfect because I went from being, out of shape but really fresh to like going into Green Mountain, just got to the fitness level that I needed to get to by then. Um, so yeah, what I did differently was because I was so fresh and it was like a cramming for this race. Um, I just did a lot of high intense intervals, like probably 3 times a week. I was railing, high zone 4, 30-15s, 6 by 3 minute, like VO2. Um, yeah, and just every week I saw those numbers going up a little bit. And I would say it was 3 times a week that I was doing like high intense efforts. And then the rest of it just, good miles.
Do you think this will change how you approach big races now?
It's tough because like I can't just take 6 weeks off and like all the time going into like, all right, I got a big race in 4 months, gonna throw myself on the ground, take 6 weeks off. um but yes, like overall I think maybe, hey, if I have, I'll think about this for next year, as this season comes to a close, like, hey, I want to do well at Redlands. It's in April, maybe in you know late December, early January, you almost have like a cool down phase, so you're nice and fresh, and then you can really rail it for a couple months. That's something to think about for sure. Yeah.
What about 3 times a week intervals or more intervals, or would that change at all? Or and maybe that's normal for you. Do you normally hit that many sessions a week?
Not at that intensity.
Yeah.
That's not sustainable for me. At that VO2 level
Yeah.
intensity that I'm talking about. It was like a cram session, and I was able to do it for just long enough to get to that race as fit as I did. But like even since Green Mountain, like I took probably 4 weeks, 5 weeks without hitting VO2 after that race.
Okay.
And just going back to like, hey, let's chill out, because I could tell that like I peaked just in time, and also the come down off the peak was like right after the race. I'm like, damn, I'm tired now, you know? Yeah,
Well deserved. Did
yeah,
you do anything specific for app gap, which for people who aren't familiar with the race, there's baby gap and then app gap, and I
yeah.
get the durations of these wrong. Maybe like what, 8-minute climb, little descent, and then maybe like a 12-minute climb if I remember correctly, something around there.
Basically, yeah. So
Yeah.
baby
Anything
gap is,
specific for that?
yeah. Well, yeah, 100%. Fortunately, app gap is roughly the same duration as the time trial at Green Mountain. So I had that in mind going into this race. I'm like, yo, there's these 12 to 13 minute efforts basically, that are gonna make or break your race. Like the TT is, about 13 minutes, and that's stage one. And then app gap on stage three is at the end of the race, and it's, like 10% average or something like that. Really hard climb. And that's about 12, 13 minutes. So I did probably in the last 3 weeks going into the race, uh, once a week, I did like a 2 by 12 to 13 minutes. So I ended up accumulating, I'd say 3 or maybe even 4, I forgot exactly how many, days, in the closing weeks of doing 2 by 12, 2 by 13, um, to really see like, hey, what does it feel like to go at 98%, 99%, not 100, but really close, to see like, what can I do in that TT? What should my average power look like? And what can I do in app gap?
How did you, when you did the time trial, how did you pace that? Because it's more of a climb in the beginning, then it's kind of like
Yeah.
false flatty. What
Mhm.
did you go constant power? Did you attack it hard at the base? What's the strategy there?
For that TT, I think you have to go hard at the base. You have to go harder on the climb, because that's where the most time is made up. So I actually feel like I maybe didn't blow up enough on the climb. My power split was something like, what, it was like 8 minute climb. I think I did like 4:32 or something like that, and then I ended up averaging like 4:20 for the TT. So it dropped off, but not significantly. I ended up averaging for the last 5 minutes like 395. Whereas my teammate Luke came in a few seconds, or like 1 second ahead of me, but he's a big guy. He's like, 185-pound guy. He did like 510 watts on the climb for 8 minutes, and then the rest of the TT was at like 400. So huge drop off. So yeah, I think that's one where you almost have to like accept, hey, you gotta blow up at the top of this climb, and then like hang in there. I think, you know that'll probably drive the fastest time at the end of the day.
Okay, cool. What about, last question on the race prep? Anything that you're looking at when you're saying, hey, I've got a short TT, and then you've got these aren't super long stages, but you got 4 races in a row, a circuit race, then the road race, and then the crit. Do you do anything to simulate, hey, it's going to be 4 days back to back, or does that not phase you at all? Or how do you look at that for a Omnium stage race format?
For this race, I think, like you said, it's just not a crazy amount of miles. You know, the TT's short. Then there's one long day. It's like 110 miles, and then, app gap day is, 75 miles. So as long as you're getting in enough volume, I think like for this kind of race, you're gonna have to be doing, at least close to 20 hours for, a few weeks. If you're capable of doing that and riding hard a few times a week, I think that's enough. You don't have to do like, hey, 4 days in a row, because the TT is just one effort short. The road race, yeah, that's solid. The next road race also solid, and then the crit was 45 minutes where I just like sat in, so that almost doesn't count. It was like a zone 2 ride, like, so.
All right, let's get into, you kind of have given us a bunch of gems and workouts. We heard about the 30-15. Is there any other interval session that you feel like really moves the needle for you in fitness terms and getting ready for a race?
I would say the overall the mixture of VO2 um and then big threshold work. Like I had one ride I did 12 days before Green Mountain that was like 4.5 hours where I did 4 by 20 minutes throughout the ride at like low to mid zone 4. And then at the end of the ride, I'm already like 4,000 kJs in. I do like half an hour at, sweet spot, whatever you got left, basically. Um, so those like huge mega threshold rides, I think move the needle for sure. But, they're really exhausting and you can't do them like too often. But, yeah, something like that. And then just the VO2, I think is huge. Like making sure you're doing enough 3-4 minute efforts or however you want to do it, like you said, whether it's a 30-15, 30-30, but making sure you're doing VO2.
Anything that you dread in training, but you got to do it?
Yeah, the steady, like what you mentioned, even the descending order or descending duration sounds awful. VO2, like I actually prefer the 30-15s because you're always getting a little rest. Whereas the like a 4 by 4 minutes or like a 5 by 5 minutes, something like that, where you got to be like right in mid zone 5 the whole time is just, it's brutal for me. I dread that. Yeah.
So interesting how every rider can be so different with intervals. It's like I hate
Yeah.
30-15s. Yeah, terrible.
That's funny. Yeah.
So recovery, assuming it was a more of a normal season, we'll call it. How do you do? You're getting ready. You're coming through spring. You do a big block. You say you come off Redlands. You've done a bunch of training. You then maybe have nationals coming up in June or something. How do you handle recovery between these big, um, like training periods or race periods or however you see the kind of overall picture?
Yeah. So I think, if you just come down off of like a racing block, let's say you just did like two uh major races in like a 3 week time span, and then you got another one coming up in like 8 weeks, 7 weeks, like take one definitely like a recovery week where um, you reduce the volume to maybe like 55% of what you would normally do. And you just prioritize recovery zone 2, maybe do like one little sharp session just to keep your foot in the door, and then like slowly build back into it where uh like I said, after Green Mountain I didn't do VO2 for like 4 weeks, so like that's stuff that like really, if you dread it, kind of like you said, then just don't do it for a while. Just like ride your bike, um do tempo, do zone 2, do a little threshold. You keep like 95% of the fitness just doing that. And then when it comes closer to the event, within like 4 weeks, let's say, then maybe you want to start like putting that icing back on the top of the cake, if you will, with the higher intensity stuff.
I like what you said about, if you're dreading it, don't do it, because people that will talk to me about, that, oh man, I rode up next to Jimmy and he was trained. And I was like, dude, this guy's so hyped. He's like, oh, let's go. And I think that's kind of like a really good sign of what you're explaining. Like when you're hyped for something, you have this energy mentally and physically, that's when you're laying it down. And when
Yeah.
it's time to recover, like you're all in on recovery. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah. Like, if it's coming up to the event, then 100%, like you got to get in that crazy mentality where you're ready to just like smack it and like put your life on the line for this effort. But but um you know but yeah, when the race is over and like, hey, you've really railed it to get to where you were at for the race, and like if you keep doing that stuff, like you're just gonna like plateau and then like get not be able to get better.
No.
So yeah, it's important. Like you can't always be railing it like full full gas.
And that plateau, I think it relates to what you were talking about before, like when you're not recovered fully and then you're just doing a ton of stuff at 90% and you're riding out this like kind of crappy training for a couple weeks. And then do I go harder? Do I go easier? Like I've been crappy for 2 weeks. What do I do now? And yeah, that's just a terrible situation to be in that none of us like, and just avoid it like the plague. You kind of hit on this a little bit, but last training question, how important is it for you to like check in on numbers? Like, do you got to do a 5-minute test or a 20-minute test, or do you just sort of trust how you're feeling in the flow and the numbers that you're putting out on these specific interval rides? How do you look at that?
No, it's important to me. Definitely. You know, if you're used to being able to hit a certain number and feel a certain way on a 10-minute effort, on a 20-minute effort, and let's say you go out and you test one out and it's like, hey, I'm off by like 10%. Then usually you might need a little rest. Like there's something going on there. You want to look back and see like, well, what have I been doing coming into today? Like, have I been training really hard and I'm tired? Or, am I like, wait, have I not done intensity for a couple of weeks or whatever? Am I stale? But yeah, I think it's important to see where you're at periodically to check back that like, hey, what you're doing is working, or like, hey, this is like I'm tired or I'm stale. Yeah.
What's more important to you, 10-minute power or 20-minute power?
I almost want to say 10. Because like if you can hit a super duper high 10, you can like fill in the rest that needs to be done to get to 20. 10's more like VO2.
Yeah.
I think, it's kind of like the VO2 is the hardest thing to actually change, whereas threshold is like you can train it. It's more trainable.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like when I was younger, I struggled with that. Like I had a really good big aerobic engine, but I didn't do a lot of super hard VO2 efforts, and so like my 5-minute, wasn't that good. And I think that's super important. That's what makes the decision in the race is like that 5-minute, 10-minute power.
I mean, I think to be fair, you were at a disadvantage of starting racing when you did, because most people at that point in time are saying, oh, VO2 max is just genetic. You don't have to train it. And you just,
right.
if you race, it all works itself out. And now we know that's the worst advice that all of us ever got. But yeah, that was the time. It's like,
even if it is genetic, it's like you can still change it like to the best of your ability. So do it. Cause like, yeah, it's crazy. Like, if I can do like phenomenal 3, 5, 7, 8-minute power, it's like the 1 hour power almost like it works itself out, because like aerobically you're there as long as you're doing enough like zone 2 and some tempo and stuff.
Anything in pulling the curtain back behind Jimmy's training, anything else that we might have missed? Any other gems or pearls that we need to tell the people about?
Not really. I don't
Not
think
really.
so.
What do you hold back, Jimmy? What's
what am I holding back? That was a lot. Like, just, listen to your body, don't like, avoid that, spiraling decline where you're just like continuing to push at 80, 90%. That's a big thing. That's probably the biggest thing I've learned over my time is like, to get better, you have to feel rested enough to like smack the heck out of the workout and really do it properly, as opposed to just kind of doing it all the time. You don't want to,
Last question, goals for 2026. You mentioned Redlands. What else is on the calendar in your mind?
Yeah, Redlands and Nationals are my big goals. I'm not even sure if our team's doing it yet, but we're gonna try to get into Redlands. Something like a Gila and a Tour de Beauce as well. I'd love to take a shot at.
Anything else in the late summer or fall? I know it's a lot far away, but those are all early.
Well, we got Green Mountain again.
Would you go back?
Yeah, of course. It's a
Okay.
great race. Love it.
I just
Yeah.
heard I know you guys got kind of stiffed on payout, so that I think turned off a lot of people after the race. Not to poo-poo on Green Mountain, but that was kind of crappy to hear.
Was it, you know what? I didn't even look at that stuff. I gave my prize money to the team. I was so happy to win it. But like,
Good.
let
Let's
me
leave it at that.
think.
Let's leave it at being happy
Yeah,
about it.
I don't think we got stiff too bad. Whatever. It's, we're in it for the glory.
Good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Good luck with your training and racing. Be sure to follow Jimmy on Instagram. Hit him up on Strava. We'll definitely post some of these workouts that you can try, and good luck. And if you ever see him in South Florida, you can try and get on his wheel, but you might not last too long. So, Jimmy, thanks so much for doing this, and we'll talk to everybody soon.